from degrees to radians and radians to degrees, section 4.1, building the bridges. Degree, minutes, seconds, that was at the end of 4.1, like the very, very end. But in between, there were all these nasty physics formulas. Do you guys remember those? Area of a sector, arc length. No, arc length wasn't. Yeah, it was one. Using S and R and theta. I'm peeking really fast if you need to know any of those. Hold on. Hold on, hold on. No. You do not need to know any of those physicsy formulas. Cool deal? Okay. No physicsy formulas from section 4.1. 4.2, where did we go? Unit circle. Radians. I'm not going to force you guys to use X and Y, but some of the questions that were posed in 4.2, like how to find sine of 3 pi over 4, or cosine of 3 pi over 4, or how to find all 6 trig functions at a coordinate, that could still come up. I'm just not going to force you to use the X and Y. Triangles, you can use the cheater chart. But you need to have a non-calculator way to do these tomorrow. In section 4.2, it got a little hard if it went beyond 2 pi, but then we learned, oh wait, that just doubles in on itself, so we just find the coterminal angle and then go from there. We just go with the coterminal angle and go from there. If it's a specific one, just hold on. Remember, and if I were you, I would say from section 4.2 and 4.3, we had formulas. Who is tangent? Sine over cosine or y over x. Who is cosine? 1 over sine or 1 over y. Have a way in your head, hopefully like you had for the unit circle quiz, of solving for these weird functions, not just sine and cosine, but the rest. In 4.3, we had triangles. With triangles, remember, they could ask you to solve, but they might only give you 2 sides. How can we always find the third missing side of a right triangle? Yeah, there you go, Pythagorean theorem. It's super easy. Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared is c squared, right? So remember, you can always find that third side. And then how do we, from triangle, get sine and cosine and tangent? And cosecant and secant and cotangent? Yeah, SOHCAHTOA, use the sides, right? SOHCAHTOA, JOSHIKA. Like you use your sides as far as from an angle, opposite is the one that's across, adjacent is the one that's a part of the angle, hypotenuse is across from the 90, right? And then we have some of these using, well that's fun. Anyway, that's okay. Section 4.4 is the only one that we're missing. It wasn't 4.4 kind of just unit circle times 2? It was how to find sine, cosine, tangent of lots of different angles. The one weird thing that I probably should point out to you, and I wish it was up here on the screen for me to show you, but maybe someone will have a question on it. Do you remember in our notes how we did that one at the very beginning where it gave us a point? We went over a lot of homework questions on section 4.4, or at least quite a few. Remember this one where it gave us a point? And we drew a triangle, and from that triangle we were able to give our trig. That's a really important one to look at. And then remember how we had to find reference. Important skill to have for tomorrow. That was kind of just more unit circle. I think the other thing from homework that I specifically remember us going over in section 4.4 was the ones that had constraints. Do you guys remember that one? It had constraints where it was like, hey, by the way, sine is equal to like 1/2, and you're in the third quadrant. You have to go make like a triangle in the third quadrant and figure out the ones with constraints. That was homework questions that we went over, I think, yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. Let me peek really quickly. Ooh, I did not talk about complements and supplements. You might want to write that one down. I did not talk about complements and supplements or coterminal angles. Those were all from section 4.1. I did not talk about complements, supplements, or coterminal angles. That was from section 4.1. Other than that, I think, hold on, double checking. I think I've talked about everything else. Now pause. Real quick, important detail for tomorrow. Didn't I tell you you could not use your calculator? That's right on half. Have your calculator tomorrow. There's going to be 2 portions to the test. Instead of like one whole quest stapled and put together, there's going to be 2 pages. I'm going to hand out to you guys first the non-calculator part. So all calculators start off the desk. Phones are up there. You have your cover sheet on your desk and a pencil. Everyone starts with the same part of the test. Everyone starts with the non-calculator portion of the test. Non-calculator, what could I ask you? I don't know. I could ask you for complements, supplements, for converting from degrees to radians or the other way. I could ask you for unit circle-y stuff, or something to do with unit circle. I could ask you for, hey, what quadrant would you be in if this and this were true, or this and this were happening, etc., etc. That could be the non-calculator part. But then, once you finish, and you're going to have to finish that part and turn it in, not to get it back. But once you turn in the calculator portion, the non-calculator portion, then I will go ahead and take the one and I'll give you the other, and then you finish it with your calculator. Does that make sense? So 2 different pages. The first page you get is non-calculator. Once you turn it in, it is mine. It is no longer yours. You can't go back to it. I will give you part 2 of the test. You will pull your calculator up and you may use it for the rest. Couple notes about the calculator problems. Guys, do you have to keep a close eye on whether it's radians or degrees? If the angle has a degree mark, what mode had you better be in? How do you put a secant in your calculator? 1 divided by cosine of. Do you know how to do degrees, minutes, seconds in your calculator? Charger? No, I only have older ones. Sorry. Lo siento. Ask around though. Joe, what's your question, bud?
Do we have some question like non-calculator portion? Do we have something like sine 15 degrees, something like that?
No. Only unit circle. But you could have a triangle with 45 degrees, and then in order to solve the triangle, you need sine. And I didn't say unit circle, but you're going to have to use unit circle. Does that make sense? But I'm not going to give you weird things on the non-calculator portion. I'm going to give you weird things on the calculator portion? Yes. Ready? Open up your calculators really quickly. Let me help. I just said, do you know how to do degrees, minutes, seconds? And you said no. Uh-oh. Can you guys find the angle menu in your calculator? Look at second apps. Look at second apps, second button and the apps button. I would show you mine, but sadly, something expired and the license that I did have didn't work. I have to email Texas Instruments. I know, it's sad times. Second apps. You guys in the angle menu? Do you see a degree mark? Yeah. Ooh. Okay, I want you guys to try to find for me the following. Can you try to find for me cotangent of 15 degrees? How do you do that? What should you be putting in your calculator right now? There are a few things that need to be true. Number 1, you better double check your mode that you're in degree mode. If you're not in degree mode, this whole thing will be wrong, okay? So make sure you're in degree mode. Cotangent, before you even get to the angle part. Good. 1 divided by tangent up. Now you're going to go ahead and go to that second apps menu. It'll just save you a little bit of time tomorrow. You're in the angle menu, and if you notice, can't you add? And in that second apps menu, can't you 13 with a minutes mark? Nice. If you're in degree mode and if you plug that in correctly, have a final answer of, I don't know, let's collaborate. Joe, what do you got? 676. Anybody else have that answer? Yeah. They not have that answer. Turn to someone in your group or ask me now for your calculator, just because it's going to save a little bit of time tomorrow. Knowing how to use that really cool second apps menu in degree mode. That would be the final answer. That's good. But what if I was to ask you something like, let me make sure I'm doing something like that though, or else I don't want to put something new in your head that you guys don't need. What if I was to ask you to convert um, 37 point, what if I wanted you to convert 37.75 degrees to degrees, minutes, seconds? Did you guys see anything else really cool? Matthew, what do you see?
Let's
Mm-hmm. But if you take a decimal minutes, seconds, it might make it nice and pretty for you. The other way of doing it would have been to take the 37 degrees and then to make the 3/4 degree, which would have been, I guess you could have done it this way, 3/4 degree, and you would have had to do like a little dimensional analysis with 1 degree, 60. You could have done it that way. And that would also get you the math way of doing it. The calculator problem, maybe you could use that really cool DMS button to say, hey, let's put it into degrees, minutes, seconds. With that, kiddos, those are a couple hints as far as how to use your calculator, how to know how to use your calculator tomorrow, besides keeping an eye open on whether it's a radian or whether it's a degree. If you're adding and subtracting, do you have to worry about radians and degrees? Multiplying? No. The only time you have to worry about whether you should be in radian mode or whether you should be in degree mode is if you're plugging into a trig function, okay? Whether they gave you an angle or whether you're plugging into a trig function. But for addition, subtraction, every time I have kids like, wait, what mode am I supposed to be in? And we're not even doing trig. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's okay. The only time you have to worry about radians and degrees is when you're dealing with trig, okay? With that, I think I've given you pretty good hints for the majority of the test. Make sure you have your calculator tomorrow, and if you don't have one, make sure you borrow one, because literally all the ones I have are like either out of battery or broken. Minus one that might or might not be available tomorrow. So please, please, please remember your calculator, and if you forget it, go like begging in the hallway before class starts, okay? Okay. But we're going to start with non-calculators, so know your unit circle also. Speaking of unit circle, let's really quickly go over those answers, yeah? Okay. Just because there might be some other unit circle-y ones tomorrow on the non-calculator portion. So where is that? Here it is. Cosine of 5 pi over 6. Did you guys get second quadrant? And did you remember that cosine is negative in the second quadrant? You should have ended up with negative root 3 over 2. Remember, 1 point for the sign, 1 point for the number. Sine of pi over 3, first quadrant. First quadrant. Up a lot. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. It'd be 3. 1, 2, 3. Tangent of 11 pi over 6. That's in the fourth quadrant. Right before square root of 3 over 3. 1 square root of 3. Square root of 3 over 3. 1 square root of 3. It's a square root of 3 over 3, 1, but with a negative. Secant of pi. Oh, that's gross. Isn't pi on the axis? Ugh. And it had the point negative 1, 0. Secant is 1 over who? 1 over cosine, right? So 1 over x. Over 4s are nice because they're always root 2 over 2s. My question, though, is what quadrant, what sign? Fourth quadrant, all students take, and sign's not positive. And last but not least, negative 2 pi over 3 is tangent. Square root of 3 over 3, 1 square root of 3. Square root of 3 gets flipped. So you could think of it that way, but that would also rationalize. Okay, pause though. Pause though. Those were just quizzes. What's tomorrow? A quest is worth more. Okay, so whatever mistakes you made in the unit circle today, you might want to just try to shore up. I think a few of you guys finally got what you should be studying, but maybe today wasn't perfect either. Who knows? Maybe after break we'll have a surprise random bonus unit circle quiz and it can make up for one of these bad ones. But for right now, we're studying for a quest tomorrow. After break, maybe a bonus unit circle quiz, just randomly to come up. But for right now, study for the quest tomorrow on all of 4.1 to 4.4. Those of you guys that worked on it, where did we get stuck? What questions do we have? We have a few, right? 17?
No, it's not like stuck. I just want to make sure I'm doing things right.
Okay. Jordan, what's up with you?
Can you scroll up a little bit?
Yeah.
Just on like 1 and 3, I just don't know like what you're supposed to do when asked for a cosine line.
Okay, no, that's a great question because we haven't done coterminal in a long time. So for these guys, I'm going to go ahead and just steal those.
I don't know if those are the only ones, but there might be some. Like,
That's okay. It's just asking where it is and for one negative and positive coterminal, and that's actually really good for the quest tomorrow. So, yeah. So for number 1, for instance, just because radians I think are a little bit harder, right? 15 pi over 4. Ugh. Do you see this guy tomorrow? Do you guys know what to do with him? Yeah, can't I take away like 8 pi over 4? So that'd be 1, 2, 3, 3, and 3/4 pi, right? So I can go 1 pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, and 3/4 pi. It would put me right here in the 4th quadrant. And if I need coterminal angles, well, here's what coterminal angles say. They say like, hey, you know what? 2 pi can get you to another spot, like going a full 2 pi or subtracting a full 2 pi. So if I were you, I would say, you know what? We're cutting it into fourths. What happens if we take away 2 pi, aka 8 pi over 4? We could get to the exact same spot by just taking away a revolution or taking away 2 pi.
hard to get to the original.
Kind of.
So because like that's like going over, so you're
Right.
trying to get back to like
Yeah.
something that
And you can always get back by subtracting 2 pi. Now they said 1 negative and 1 positive. That's a positive. To get negative, I'm going to have to subtract another 2 pi. And it's only because they asked for that. They said find 1 negative, 1 positive. So I'll go again because you can like go back another revolution. And then you could end up with negative pi over 4. I could have also added 8 pi over 4, like gone more as far as your revolutions. But for degrees, I mean, it's super similar, but in degrees, you're not adding 2 pi. What are you adding for degrees? Yeah, so if I add 360, then I end up at 250, which is coterminal. If I add another 360, I'll be at the same place, but it won't be negative. Yeah, so I would subtract 360. So for coterminals, you're just adding full revolutions or subtracting full revolutions. Both ways work. It just depends on what answer they're looking for, negatives, positives, etc. But yeah, adding 2 pi, subtracting 2 pi, or adding 360, subtracting 360. To that end, guys, what would be the reference angle for this guy?
70.
Nope.
The first one, 45.
Isn't it just the little guy who's left over? And it's going to be reference angles if you're looking for those. Just 'cause it's later on in the section. Reference angles are the guys that are left over to the axis. What's the piece that's missing? It's a half test, 50 points. 10 points. Yeah. Do you have a question? Oh, does that make sense though? Cool, cool, cool. Questions. Joe, you were asking about number 17. I'm kind of ignoring it just because it's not important for tomorrow. Do you guys see what number 17 is? It's that nasty, like, physicsy formula. Technically, though, if you're trying to find area of a sector, Joe, is that the one that's 1/2 r squared times theta? I think it's 1/2 r squared theta. You would need to put the theta in radians for all these formulas. So you would need to convert him. Yeah, you can do that. 2 pi over 3, right? So you can do 2 pi over 3 as your angle, and then your radius is 18, and then times 1/2. So 1/2 18 squared times 2 pi over 3. Should be right. But guys, don't stress about that for tomorrow, because we're not having to do sectors. Anything else you guys are wondering about? Then what if I was to ask for the complement of something like let's do 4 pi over 7. What's the complement? It passed the middle? No. Did it? Oh, what's half of 7? If your calzone's cut into 7 slices, what's half?
Half is like 3.5.
3.5. So if it's past half, wherever it
Does
is?
it have to be a negative pi over 7?
No, 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 no. Are there ever negative complements or supplements?
No.
No. If it's past pi over 2, there's no complement. Okay, fine. What would its supplement be?
3 pi over 7.
How'd you get that, Joe?
Use 7 pi over 7 subtract.
Wherever you are, even if it's not a unit circle value, remember for supplement, you're saying how many more pieces? Well, you're cut into sevenths. What's 7 minus 4 sevenths? It's just fractions, right? Would there have been a complement if it had been less than 90? Yeah, but it wasn't. So we say no complement. That's something I thought might come up. Did I see a hand? Someone else had a question? Yeah. Well, I'm not going to force you to like use the X, Y, or to use triangles or to use the cheater chart. But I would advise showing a little bit of work just in case, like maybe on the unit circle you messed up a sign or you messed up a number. If you show me a little bit of work, I at least know what you were thinking. Does that make sense? But for some of you, you're just like writing down the answers and saying, haha, I know the unit circle, that's good. That's fine. I'm not going to take off points. You're going to show me work. Yeah. Some of you might be wondering, well, wait a minute, are there any long answers tomorrow? I don't think I actually talked about that. The calculator, or I should say the non-calculator section are all multiple choice. And I'm mixing these up horribly. Both sections of the test are only multiple choice. But if you don't show work, can I give you partial credit for what might have been going on in your head? No. I'm not saying I'll give partial credit on every single one if you do something right. You wrote your 5 nicely. But if it's something that actually contributes to the question, then maybe I can give you half credit if you get it wrong. Okay, so what's due tomorrow? Notes, spiral, and a review. Good. Okay, any questions? Calculator. We're going to go. And the notes in the homework spiral are going to go. And then we're cool? Okay. All right, cool kids. Remember, I'll try to remind you tomorrow, but everyone's all stressed out on test and quest days, and I understand that. You might want to pull out your corrections before turning in your homework spirals tomorrow.